really successful person. I think that everybody's always struggling. And what happens is, you just struggle at a higher level. It's like learning how to ski or play some sport, and you're just kind of doing this higher thing, but it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like I'm struggling. And I think it's, and it's a good feeling. The way I think of it is, I've always thought that it's like, in order to be successful in life, you have to cross a jungle. Or you can stay on the other side of the jungle and not cross the jungle. But if you choose to cross the jungle has all sorts of things that can do you harm and bite you and everything along those lines. And so the best way to do that is to go into that with people who can see things differently and watch themselves and struggle to make it to the other side. And then what I've discovered along the way is that it's always a struggle, and I enjoy being in the jungle. I don't want to get to the underside. I don't want to get out. So that's what it feels like.
On in the field.
Bill believes a prime ingredient of his success was his early fascination with computers.
You have to understand, when you spend your time thinking intensely about a field, from a very young age, which in my case is, I was 13 or 14 when I started to get involved. That's where you can do great things, is because your mind has really gotten into it. You understand it.
What are the ideas that excite you? Or is it just customers?
Customers first.
Yeah.
Second is, last century, a company, if you want to grow, I believe you should find a good opportunity. But today, this world never lack opportunity. But today, if you want to be a great company, think about what problem you can solve. It's not to catch the opportunity. It's about solving the social problems. Because company like Alibaba, we're growing so fast, it's very difficult for one opportunity that can make us last. Such an organization with the power by internet, with millions of SMEs, with 400 million consumers, what kind of problem you can solve? And I'm excited. Anything you mentioned about cloud computing and talking about the mobile things, anything that's happened in the USA is going to happen.
For me, so much of the lesson that I feel like I've learned is, I feel like it's really hard to decide to start a company, right? Facebook, I didn't start it to start a company. I started it because I really wanted this thing personally, and I believed that it should exist globally, although I wasn't quite sure that we would be able to play a role in doing that. It was mostly just through kind of like wanting to build it and having it be this hobby and getting people around me excited that it eventually kind of evolved into and got the momentum to become a company. But I never really understood the psychology of deciding that you want to start a company before you understand what you want to do. I mean, this gets back to the question of why did we first open at colleges that had competitors? I have this big fear, I think, of getting locked into doing things that aren't actually the most impactful things. I mean, to me, this is like the trait that entrepreneurs have, is they just have this like laser-like ability to go find where they can have the most impact. And when you take on a new project, especially if you hire people or start a company, you're doing that project. And I mean, there are obviously different ways that it can exit and all that, but I think having the flexibility to explore a lot of different things, which you can do when you're in college, which is one of the amazing things about being in college, is you can work on all these hobbies and code a lot of stuff and try a lot of different things. It's this amazing flexibility that I think most people take for granted. And once you decide, okay, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do it with someone else, you immediately now need to convince someone else if you want to change your mind on something. And I think people really undervalue the option value and flexibility. I think explore what you want to do before committing is really like the key thing, and keep yourself flexible. No, I think that's... Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, but I think, and you can definitely do that within the framework of a company, but I think you have to be wary about starting a company too rigidly, because you're going to change what you do. I mean, people talk about pivots all the time as if it's like your thing didn't work, so you pivoted. Facebook pivoted many times. It's just that we were college, and then we were not college, and then we were just a website, and then we were a platform, right? And you're going to change what you do.
There's another word for the kind of pivots you were talking about: expansions.
Well,
right? That's not what people usually mean by pivoting.
Well, flexibility.
Yeah.
And many grown-ups do figure out over time what their passions are. And sometimes we let I don't think it's that hard. I think what happens though sometimes is that we let our intellectual selves overrule those passions. And so that's what needs to be guarded against. Kids are,
especially for young people, to actually do that self-assessment and find that passion. Do you have any advice?
I think many kids and many grown-ups do figure out over time what their passions are. And sometimes we let our, I don't think it's that hard. I think what happens though sometimes is that we let our intellectual selves overrule those passions. And so that's what needs to be guarded against. Kids are very good about knowing what their passions are.
I love that, because I think I've seen you describe this way, that you've always maintained that sense of wonder. I think that's what kids have, but we lose it somehow along the way.
Yes, everybody, it's a gift if you can keep your childlike sense of wonder. And it helps with creativity, it helps to have fun. You laugh more and play more if you keep that childlike sense of wonder. What we're really focused on is thinking long term, putting the customer at the center of our universe, and inventing. Those are the three big ideas. I don't think that you can invent on behalf of customers unless you're willing to think long term, because a lot of invention doesn't work. If you're going to invent, it means you're going to experiment. You have to think long term. So these three ideas, customer centricity, long-term thinking, and a passion for invention, those go together. That's how we do it. And by the way, we have a lot of fun doing it that way.
Amazing about your success is that your timing was good too. How does an innovator actually identify that historical momentum, that Kitty Hawk moment? You recognize what was happening with the internet and you said, you know what, there's actually a room for me to start with books and then move on. How do you do that? How do you find the time and the momentum, the zeitgeist?
I think everybody has their own passion, their own thing that they're interested in, and then you're very alert to the things that are in the sphere of influence of that passion.
So your passion has led you to change the world, frankly, with Amazon. But yet you've got Blue Origin, you've got Bezos Explorations. Why can't somebody like you just rest on your laurels? Go play golf.
Well, I love what I do. I also have 4 kids. I have a wife that I love. I have a lot of passions and interests. But one of them is the pace of change. I love the fact that I get to work with these big, smart teams. The people I work with are so smart, and they're self-selected for loving to invent on behalf of customers. And so, it's not, do I love every moment of every day? No, that's why they call it work. There are things that I don't enjoy, but if I'm really objective about it, and I look at it, I'm so lucky to be working alongside all these passionate people, and I love it.
How do you remain nimble? Because there is somebody in their dorm room who could eat you up for lunch the next day.
My belief on this is, first of all, that's completely correct, and you can never assure anybody that can't happen. But I think if you have a customer-centric culture, that cures a lot of ills, because we wake up, let's say you're the leader in a particular arena, if you're competitor focused and you're already the leader, then where does your energy come from? Whereas if you're customer focused and you're already the leader, customers are never satisfied. So if you're customer focused, you're always waking up, how can we make that customer say, wow? How can we, our energy, our passion, we want to impress our customers. We want them to say, wow. That kind of divine discontent comes from observing